Hello everyone, Moss here, and today we're going to review all the rules for Kruleboyz and talk about which are strong, which are weak. We're going to talk about dirty tricks, artifacts, power, mount traits, the whole shebang. So settle in. So at first we have our two faction abilities. We have our Kruleboy Wa. Now, if you've seen my How to Win with Kruleboyz video, you'll know that this is one of the most important rules in our list, and it really helps us win games. Next, we have Venom-encrusted weapons. Venom-encrusted weapons is a huge source of damage for us. So again, I mean, these two rules are what make up our army. This is what makes our army good. Dirty tricks, however, are not particularly impactful in our game. We can pick one at the start of the game. So Noisy Racket is good if our opponent is an Alpha Strike army, subtracting one from, or a heavy shooting army. If they can like get within range to shoot us, but really it's more for like Iron Jaws, for example. So subtract one from wound rolls for attacks made in the first battle round. So this can help us survive that first battle round, and then set up our Kruleboy Wa and hopefully take advantage of that. Lethal Surprise. Dirty tricks in general have this problem. If you look at this, roll 3 dice for each 4-up, pick a terrain feature, and then later, if they come within 1 inch of the terrain feature or the objective, on a 2-up, they suffer d6 mortal wounds. We have 1 die roll, 2 die rolls, 3 die rolls, and they have to finish a move within 1 inch of the terrain feature or objective. So, Lethal Surprise, like, I love the idea of like laying out these traps on the battlefield and weakening the opponent before they get to us. I feel like it's really good in the lore, right, and with what we're trying to do with this army, but unfortunately it just doesn't. There's a good chance it's just not going to do anything, and we need, like, for me personally, I like a more consistency. Disappearing Act is usually the one that I pick, but again we have the same problem here. Roll 3 dice for each 4-up, pick a unit on the battlefield that hasn't been reinforced, then roll a die for each unit you pick. If the roll is greater than the wounds, you remove it from the battlefield, and then essentially you're like depriving it of a move. Is effectively what happens. But again, it's like die roll, die roll, die roll. So usually this is the one I pick, but I mean, Noisy Racket is always a good one. Is fine. Lethal Surprise is fine. It's not that these are fine. It's just that they are just as strong as each other. I would love for some of these to be better. Like for Lethal Surprise, I would love it if you just got to pick 2 objectives or terrain features. Like you just get to pick 2, or you get to pick 1 for every Gut Ripper's unit or something. Like that would just be better. Same thing with Disappearing Act. It's like, you know, maybe just roll 1. I don't even know, but it's just so inconsistent and not a huge fan. Covered in Mud is maybe the worst one. Roll 3 dice. Again, here we are rolling. For each 4-up, pick 1 friendly unit that is not a hero or monster. While that unit is in cover, it is not visible to enemy units, but we're invisible outside of 12 most of the time anyway, because we pick the, Grid and Blades subfaction. So it's kind of redundant, right? So I don't think I've ever picked this one. Yeah, I mean, it's just not super impactful. Subfactions, so Big Yellows is fine. Big Yellows is fine. Being able to have Bolt Boys as battle line is good. You can have blocks of 9, and you don't have to play Gut Rippers and Hobgrots. But I think Grid and Blades is definitely the best. The problem with Big Yellows is that if you're not playing Hobgrots and Gut Rippers, then, well, not Gut Rippers in particular, like, you still need screens, right? Like, you still need screens. And so are you going to run extra units of Hobgrots to take up those screen rolls? Right? So, I don't know. It doesn't feel... I'd rather just have my things way more protected and invisible outside of 12 inches. There's so many things that Grid and Blades shuts off, like shooting, magic, all kinds of great things. Crawly Swarm, this is not playable, really. Let me just read it. When an enemy unit is picked to fight, roll a die. If it's within 3 inches of any friendly skull, bugs unit, add 2 to the roll if that enemy unit is within 3 inches of any friendly monster. On a 6-up, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that enemy unit in that phase. I feel like this would benefit from a rework. I would love to have like a monsters subfaction, so when you're running your Vultures and your Sludge Rakers, that they have, you know, like a subfaction that, you know, maybe you want to play 2 Vultures because you're getting these cool benefits. Our spell lore is awesome. The Black Pit is a great spell. Casting value of 12 or 7, range of 12. What it does is it's going to inflict lots of mortal wounds against units that have lots of members and high saves. So in Stormcast Eternals, for example, Protectors are really good. This would be good against Slaves to Darkness. This might be good against Nurgle. So I really like it. The only thing about it that I don't really like is the 12-inch casting range, because we want to keep things at a distance. But if you're getting swarmed by something, then you can really throw this out there, and hopefully it can do a lot of damage. Choking Mist is really strong. Again, casting value of 7, but a range of 24, so now we're talking. So you get to pick a point on the map, and then every unit within 6 inches. So you're not even... So the range of this isn't really 24, it's actually like, you know, 29.9 inches, because that 6-inch circle extends beyond the 24 inches. So this has reach. So they can't run. -1 from their attack characteristic. So you're going to slow them down. If they're coming in to... if they're coming in to charge on the next turn, this is good because it lasts until your next hero phase. It's also good to use at a distance to prevent like slow models from running. It's great. Sneaky Miasma is maybe our best spell. I think it's definitely my favorite spell. It lets you move a monster in the hero phase. Make a normal move. Range of 18. Because we're built as a castle, almost all of our units are going to be within 18. So this is really strong. It lets you set up for your Kruleboy Wa. So you cast this on a, you know, on Gobsprak, or you cast this on a Sludge Raker, and it lets you move those units in the hero phase so that your Kruleboy Wa can go off. Nasty Hex is good if you're playing against wards. So for whatever reason it is, right? If you can get within 12, you can get rid of that ward spell, which is good. Swamp Call Shaman, Summon Boggy Mist, great spell. Giving -1 to charge for your enemies is really strong in this army because we want to keep them at a distance. We don't want them charging. We want to dictate the pace of the game. And on your Kruleboy Wa turn, giving +1 to charge for those Kruleboy set pieces that are going to be going into engage to execute the Wa is good. You want to get them where they want to go. Mystic Shield is okay in this list. Arcane Bolt is not. Mystic Shield is okay in the list, but you also have your Swamp Call of Shaman's Elixir, so you can do that too, but our saves are poor, so a low casting value, the range being small is okay, and then we just, yeah, we can just, it's okay. Command traits. Let's see. Slippery Scumbag. The general can retreat and charge in the same turn. It's like, meh. Maybe if you have a kill a boss on Ashtooth, because he gets +1 to hit on the charge, but like feels like it's being wasteful. I do really like both of these. I really like Super Sneaky. I like throwing a unit of Hobgrots out on the map and using this Swamp Boss Scumdrick's Betmaster ability with that. Egomaniac is also good. Passing off wounds onto Hobgrots and Gut Rip is good if your opponent has spells or abilities that lets you see within 12. So I'm going to use Stormcast Eternals as examples a lot because I'm familiar with them, but Bastion's Thunder Voice, whatever that one is, doesn't need line of sight, you just pick, or the Slon's Comet Call. So if that's kind of what you're playing against, you can use Egomaniac to, you know, keep your general at the top of his chart until you are ready to fight. Artifacts of Power, Eyebiter Ash. I don't think it's that strong. You know, like, so it's once per battle. Okay, you pick one enemy within 3, and then you have to roll a die. So on a 1 and 2, nothing happens. So do you really want to pick an artifact where there's a 1 in 3 chance that nothing happens? I don't. On a 3 to 4, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit for the rest of that phase. Okay, on a 5 up, subtract 1 from hit rolls for the rest of the battle. So there's a 1 in 3, but it's only going to matter for a phase. Like, if this doesn't have a huge impact when you use it, the rest of the fight is not going to matter that much because we're either snowballing into a victory or we are losing. So, again, 1 in 3 chance that my artifact power does nothing seems really bad to me. Mork's Eye Pebble. So this makes us, it gives us, let's see, have a ward of 5 up until the next turn. We don't want, in Kruleboyz, to have defensive items and abilities. We don't want to make those kinds of choices. The defensive options that we have are built in with being invisible outside of 12 and the Kruleboy Wa. The defense of the Kruleboy Wa is that whatever is close to us is dead. So I don't like options for this army where we take defensive enhancements. Not losing isn't the same as winning. Keeping your models alive is not the same as winning the game. I would much rather see my opponent dead than see my units die a turn later than they normally would. So a defensive 5-up ward, in my view, just doesn't really interest me very much. Beast Kill a Slop. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy monster within 3 of the bear and roll a die. On 1, nothing happens. Once again, there's a 1 in 6 chance that nothing happens. But on a 2 to 5, D6 mortals, and on a 6, 2 D6 mortals. D6 mortals is nothing to laugh at. I would say that if you have a large monster meta in your local store or whatever, that it's definitely worth a look. Being able to deal extra damage to monsters on the Kruleboy Wa turn is relevant if you're fighting lots of monsters. Spiker Seed. Once per battle, if the enemy unit finishes a charge move within 6, you can save the bear with other Spiker Seed. If you do, roll a die for each model in that unit. On each 5-up, the enemy suffers 1 mortal wound. So, the thing is, it's got to be within 6, which is not that hard because we like to deploy as a castle. Every model in the unit, so, you know, you're gonna, because it's a 5-up, you're gonna get a 1 in 3. So if it's 10, you're gonna get on average 3 mortals. So I think this is better than a lot of the artifacts of power, but only because in general the artifacts of power in this army are quite weak. Dirty Tricks are quite weak. The artifacts of power are quite weak. I don't generally take any of them here, so if you really wanted to pick something, maybe particularly in this season, I think Spiker Seed might be your choice. Moving on to mount traits, Toughen. So it's only for monsters, but that's okay because most of our mounts are monsters, or our important ones are monsters anyway. So it keeps us at the top of our damage table. This is fine, but I don't think it combos very well with either Egomaniac or with the Invisible Outside of 12 ability. If we're invisible outside of 12, we're probably not going to be taking a lot of damage before we get our Cruel Wa. And if we are going to be taking a lot of damage before we execute our Cruel Wa, I think that taking Egomaniac is better. Because the second one, Fasten, I think is easily our best, strongest one. Once per battle in the hero phase, you can make a normal move. You put this on one of your Wa pieces so that you can set up your Wa really nice. You really want to make sure that everybody's within 18 inches of the general. Normally I put this on a kill boss on Volcha, who is my general, so that I can get in, set it up properly, charge where I need to be, execute the Wa, and lay waste to my opponent. Meanin, carry out the Stomp, D6 instead of D3. Like, this is pretty weak. Again, you're going to pick this mount trait, you're going to roll the D6 and get a 1. And then you're like, ooh, I'm really glad that was good. Again, consistency in my view is really strong. Loudon, when you carry out the Roar, all enemy units within 3 instead of 1. This is more of an Iron Jaws thing. This is way better in Iron Jaws. Not very good in Kruleboyz. Weirden. This model has a 4-up against mortal wound caused by spells and the abilities of endless spells. If you're very concerned about spells and endless spells, I would run a Murknob with Belchabana. He gives a 5-up against spells and endless spells, but he's only 80 points, and again, Fasten is so much better. That being said, Weirden is like a middle tier kind of one, kind of a mount trait. Smellian, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this model and has not made a charge move in the same turn. we're not surviving multiple rounds of combat. We're either killing our opponent or they're killing us. So this one is not a good choice at all. So let's have a look at the universal enhancements. So universal command traits, battle list is good. You can re-roll charge rolls, run rolls and charge rolls. You can make sure that you get your general in position for the Kruleboy Wa when it actually happens. We don't have any priests, so this is bad. A 5-up extra command point. Our army can be pretty hungry for command points, so this one is actually pretty good. I don't think it's as strong as Egomaniac and Super Sneaky, but if you're finding that you're always short on command points, this can be a good one. Skilled Leader can also be good because our Killer Boss on Vulcha, he can copy the same command ability that's already been done. So having one extra command point can be really good. So you can give all-out attack to multiple units on your Wa turn. Heroic says, add 1 to this general's wound characteristic. Bad. Just straight bad. Master of Magic. Once per turn, you can reroll 1 casting roll, dispelling roll, or unbinding roll for this general. This would be good if we could give enhancements to Gobsprak. If we could give enhancements to Gobsprak, this would be good, but we can't. We're also never going to make a Swamp Call Shaman our general, because they need to fight to trigger our Kruleboy Wa. So, Master Magic, great universal command trait, totally garbage in our army. Universal Artifacts of Power, Amulet of Destiny, again, not dying isn't the same as winning. Vial of Manticore Venom, this is what I normally pick. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapon, add 1 to wound for attacks made with that weapon. This is really strong because for our Wa turn, we get to pick a solid, good weapon and give it +1 to wound for the rest of the game, or for the whole game. And I find that a lot of our attack profiles have 3 to wound, so bumping it down to 2 to wound so that we can go with all an attack. 2 up is really strong. Arcane Tome. The bearer becomes a wizard that knows Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield. They can attempt to cast 1 spell. So this Artifact of Power is actually pretty good if we wanted to give it to our general. And then every turn, all that he's doing is casting Mystic Shield on himself to bring his save to a 2-up. That can actually be pretty good. But again, I would much rather have Vial of Manticore Venom. I'd rather have more offense than defense. So, and then Seed of Rebirth is bad. You can re-roll Heroic Recovery rolls for the bearer. All of our bravery is so low that we're just not going to roll Heroic Recovery. It doesn't matter if we get to re-roll it because it's so bad. Our bravery is so bad that we're just not going to bother. It's just not going to be a strategy that we're going to use. We're just going to kill our opponent. Triumphs, Bloodthirsty, reroll charge. This is okay. Inspired. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by that unit until the end of that phase. I really like this one. Again, using it with our Kruleboy Wa turn. This can be really strong. After you take a battle shock test, you can say it is indomitable, so this is a free Inspiring Presence. That's okay. Right, that's okay. Having a free Inspiring Presence for our army can be good. We can be a little bit hungry for command points. Inspiring Presence is going to be a thing that we're likely to do, but I don't think Inspired, I think, is the obvious choice here for Triumph. Universal Spell Lore. Yeah, adding 1 to the damage characteristic of an attack is pretty good in our army if you pick the right weapon, if it has a high number of attacks. Adding 1 to the damage characteristic means that when Venom Encrusted Weapon procs, it deals that additional mortal wound, which is good. I'd rather have +1 to wound, personally, but +1 to damage is nothing to laugh at. The only trouble is that a lot of our other spells in this army are very good, so I don't see myself ever really choosing this spell over the other spells, but it is something to keep in mind. Levitate, it can fly, right? You give something flying. I'd rather it move in the hero phase. Again, it could be good, but there's just better options. And Ghost Mist doesn't really matter because we're invisible outside of 12. We have no prayers, so that's it. I hope that you found this useful. That, I believe, is everything. So be sure to check out my other videos, and if you have any questions or comments, please be sure to ask them in the comments below. Or make them. Yeah, fuck me. Like, subscribe, wah.